Yes, there it is. Well, really pleased to be here. For us, the European Capital Culture Year is done, so I will take you through what we've done, what the results are, and also what we did on sponsorship and partnerships. But to give you a little brief example of what we did, I will show you a short movie afterwards. So.
Come and walk with me. Come and talk with me. Because I want to tell you a story. It's a once upon a time story. Because they begin with the impossible and end with the dream come true. So, once upon a time there was an ordinary little town in Northern Europe where times were changing. The little town started to dream of new perspectives, of new possibilities, een nieuwe toekomst. People came together with a voice, a story, a dream. The new future needed all of them. The dreamers and doers, builders and breakers, artists and audiences, not only here, but across the fields and lands of Europe. Friesland, the hidden pearl discovered at last, no longer a lonely little place, but a lonely planet gem. Water in all forms, fountains from around the globe, bats and fish, birds and flowers, stars circling in motion, and a penis or two. And remember giants in Leuvardene. Dream big, dream brave. The city packed with people, touching us all, since this is what dreaming can do. Look at me. Where are we now? Did we all live happily ever after, as the fairy tale goes? Critique follows culture and argument art. But we dared to be different and to dream out loud. We dared to inspire with the old and the new. It was fresh, it was challenging, it was 2018. So keep walking with me, talking with me, because the future is yours too. Let us build on this year. Let culture show the way. Give young artists a chance and new voices a stage. Let us collaborate, co-produce, continue to dream. For culture lets us breathe.
Yes, that was our year, an amazing year. Some really hard work in the years before. Not very easy to realize the program what we did, but at the end it was beyond expectations. After me some results, we had a main program for about 60 projects with about 300 events during the entire year. So it was physically impossible to visit the entire program of Leeuwarden in 2018. At the end, we had 5.4 million visitors in Friesland, in our province and in our city. And for me, it was, as a managing director and a former accountant, also very important to get a grasp on what's the economic impact. What did the entrepreneurs and the businesses in Friesland and in Leeuwarden earned? And this is the lowest estimate. Is that they earned that year between 230 and 320 million euros. So it was really a lot. We also spoke about participation this morning. I think this is one of the most important things that we realized, that 70% of the inhabitants of Friesland participated in the project. So they were visitors, they were volunteers, they organized events, and we were really, really grateful for that. But of course we also need money. At the end we resulted in finding almost 10 million euros of sponsors, sponsoring from partnerships. And well, Kaunas is somewhat bigger as Leeuwarden. We are a city of 100,000 inhabitants, and we made a program, and European culture was about the city and the region. So the entire region was 650 100,000 inhabitants. Why should businesses of partners invest in culture? Well, for us in Leeuwarden, it was really important because we needed to strengthen our business climate in Leeuwarden-Friesland. Here, Kaunas is the second city in the country. We are country number 31. So we lack of big companies, experienced people, young people go to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague to live and to work there. So it's also for businesses who are in Friesland really important that they create a climate for themselves, for their employees and for the stakeholders that's attractive to stay and to work and to invest in our province. So that's what we really worked on. Besides that, you also have what I've saw before, brand awareness, the social profile, etc., etc. Also really important for companies. So that's the reason why they invest in us and in our projects. Before me there was an example about a basketball club. I was already mic'd up, so I didn't have the earphones to listen to the translation. But what we realized is that when you organize a European Capital of Culture, you organize basically a European championship of basketball or soccer, but you have to build your stadium, you have to assemble your teams, you have to make the rules, you have to find the referees, you have to sell tickets, you have to do the hospitality, you have to invent everything. And you only do it once, it's 1 year. So there's no learning cycle, it's not okay, we completely screwed up with our hospitality, we do it next year better. No, we had one chance. That's why this was a difficult project, and that is also why it was for sponsors and for partners difficult in the beginning to persuade. So it was really about managing the expectation, but also building confidence so that they and that we could cope with that uncertainty. ING, one of our main sponsors, you know, they do huge sponsorships. They sponsored us for €1 million, so that's for them also a quite big partnership. But you know, they were extremely experienced. They have an entire department who's responsible for sponsorships and hospitality, and you know, they work at Champions League level, and we just started, and we have a bid book, we have somehow how the project will look and how the program will look, but we don't know exactly, and they are used to hard calculations, you know, so what's the media value, what's the exposure, where are we going to be seen online and print, etc., etc. We didn't know. So that was a hard and difficult process to go through, but when you have a team in place from both sides who believe in your story and believe in what you're for as European Capital of Culture, then we found out. We found out with each other how we could do that, and of course we had to do the math and the calculations, but we at the end ended up with some really good partnerships. How did we structure that? We had 3 official partners, the main sponsors. It's the old school term, but I will still use it. That's €1 million each. Then we have a line of business partners, a line of suppliers, and a line of what we called Club 2018. Because what we realize is that you have to make a sponsor pyramid, a strategy and approach which fits your business community. As I said before, Leeuwarden, 31st city in the Netherlands, so all the big headquarters and all the decision makers, they do not live or work in Leeuwarden, but they live in Amsterdam or in Rotterdam or in Utrecht. So yes, you have to appeal to those big national sponsors, but it's also really important that those small and medium-sized enterprises within our city and our region, that they could also join in. So that's why we developed Club 2018. You pay €2,018. You can, if you want to, spread it over 4 years, when you entered in 2015. And we had a package for them that they could also be their proud sponsor, a proud partner of Leeuwarden-Friesland European Capital of Culture. And not only the big companies, but also the small companies were able to make really nice packages and exposures for themselves to brand us. We had candy, European capital of culture, candy, cheeses, drinks, liquors. They invented all kinds of different things which were very popular, not only nationwide, but also to all those 5.4 million people who visited Leeuwarden and wanted to have a small souvenir to take along. So it was for them also a business model. So okay, what did companies and partners at the end want? Well, to be frankly, the top three is exposure, so they want to get mentioned in online and print and everything. They wanted tickets and they wanted hospitality. And how higher you are up in our sponsor pyramid, we could give them more special hospitality. I saw in the previous presentations, the once in a lifetime experience, that's really important, that's appealing. You saw the giants. We were able to persuade that French theater company that our top sponsors were able to visit the rehearsals. They never do that. They did somewhere in an industrial center in Leeuwarden with huge fences around them. There they did their rehearsals, but a few partners and sponsors were able to visit that. And what they also could do, which you can see at the back, is supply volunteers who could walk along with the giants. In this case, to pave the route where the giants walked through, but it was also possible for sponsors to walk along a small part of the route with the giants. That's once in a lifetime. You can't buy it anywhere, and that was really, really appealing for them. Co-branding, I mentioned, there are lots of examples for them. They were also proactive and pre-informed. So when you're a sponsor, from small to big, we inform you just a little bit before the general public. They're also really, really appealing to them. And then the co-creations, was also mentioned that. It's not the easiest part to create that, but we had some amazing examples of projects, of sponsors who adopted a project and worked together with that project, or that employees of that company worked as a volunteer in projects. And we had, for instance, an employee of ING who was staffed by us and organized, for instance, an ISPA conference. So that was also, for her, in that case, a huge and big experience, and really enriched her working experience. Then lessons learned. Well, there are so much lessons to be learned. If I look at the partners, at the sponsors, on both sides you need good teams. I know it's really an open door, but talk to each other, and that comes to the next one. It was also there on the slide with listen to each other. Really try to find out what do you want as a company, what are your values, what's your corporate social responsibility, are you working on biodiversity, are you working on social or economic issues, and find within our huge program the projects that match. And at the end, that was really appealing to them, because they can take their clients, their employees, but also other target groups to our shows. They also need an internal activation program. It doesn't happen for anything, especially when it's about this big amount of money. There's huge amounts of hospitalities, premieres, tickets to be handed over. So you have to make also an internal activation program within your company to communicate this well and to get the maximum out of it. And as I said before, it was really a unique opportunity. This won't happen again, never ever again. You know, it's 17 years the next time Holland will be a European capital of culture. So a lot of businesses won't achieve that. And this is for the ECOC team. A lot of things I've told here, and the basics I learned from Aarhus. Because we were also struggling, how do you make the sponsor pyramid and how do you work on that? And we learned a lot of other European capital of culture, and our head of partner and sponsorship, who was solely dedicated to servicing the sponsors and the partners, came from the sports. So those two combined made an excellent combination. And I'm very, very, very glad that at the end we invested in long-term relationships. And for instance, the new main sponsor of our regional museum was somebody who wasn't going to be sponsored at us, but we could land him at the end at the Fries Museum because there he wanted to make a difference. And the final one, and I picked that one on, be strategic. Don't go after each offer, be picky, don't look too much at in-kind, but really choose your big partners and sponsors and invest in that. Thank you.
We still have some time. Maybe somebody have a question because John has to leave just in 5 minutes. Use him if yeah. There's a mic.
Yeah. Well, when you started, did you have a goal, a target of how many people you want to achieve visiting your cultural events? And did you have an estimation of a target of the economical impact?
Yes, our project, our ECOC had, it's terrible but true, 32 KPIs. Where we had to, which we had to meet, and so we had a target on how many people we wanted to visit Leeuwarden in Friesland, and the amount of money they spent. We didn't have a target on the economic impact I showed you before. That was something extra we did because I think that was really important to show that to the public that culture pays. It's not only that it costs money. No, that's definitely not so. It's organizing a European capital of culture is much more profitable from a public perspective than investing in roads. At least in Holland. That's what I have to say about that. Yeah. Yeah, that is at the end of our year we had an independent measurement of all those KPIs, and we overachieved all of them. And so, I was really glad about that. For instance, our KPI for visitors was 4 million, and that was really high. And we didn't expect it to achieve that much visitors in Friesland, mainly because we had a lot of Germans. And also a lot of people from the rest of the Netherlands, but a lot of Germans, yeah. Yeah.
The question, about the same slide actually. What was the investment? What was the city that invested how much? And because as I see, sponsoring is 10 million, and the economic impact to 30, 20.
Yeah.
So it's like 20, 30 times more. So
our entire budget, including ticket sales and everything, was 104 million euros. So the province, you don't have the system with a province, but in Holland you have the city, you have a province, and then you have the national government. The city put in just over 7 million. The national government put in 7.5 million, and the province is really wealthy in Friesland because 10 years ago they sold their shares of the energy company Nuon to Vattenfall, and they earned hundreds of millions of euros with that. So they invested almost 30 million euros in it. Yeah. So that was, and if you look at it at our income, 50% public money and 50% private money in ticket sales, in funds, in sponsors, etc.
Good afternoon, my name is Petr Šimon. I used to work for Pilsner 15 and I fully agree with you. The European Capital of Culture is about expectations and disappointments. And yeah, you had to, every single European Capital of Culture has to manage expectations, but they are different expectations for different sites. So how did you manage all those different expectations?
Yeah, trial and error is, I think, the best way to mention it. Yeah, you know, what we try to do is, I think the key thing is keeping in constant dialogue and with your most important stakeholders. So of course the city and the province are really important, but also the inhabitants of your city and your province, and also the businesses and the cultural sector. So we did storytelling, hundreds of presentations throughout the years. You know, it doesn't matter where, when, or with who. We told the story of being European Capital of Culture and the goals and why it's important for Friesland over and over and over. And then at the end, of course, delivering what you promised. That's also really important, of course. Yeah.
Do we have some more questions? No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Still one, maybe the last one. There is one question.
Is there still a positive aftermath, like now in 2019? Are you expecting a positive aftermath?
The question is about, is there still a positive aftermath? To start, we really worked in the years 2016, 15, 16 and 17 to try get that positive feeling and that positive vibe, because a lot of people were saying it's too big, it's not going to succeed, it will be a failure. So that was until halfway 2017. It was really hard work to turn that vibe. Then you have 2017, 2018. And it was a huge success with huge ticket sales. Everything sold out. Everybody wanted to be there. So that created an enormous positive vibe, and that's also why we were able to secure the legacy in the form of an agenda 2028. So for the next 10 years, with a program, with a cultural program, still rooted on the same goals as we had as European Capital of Culture. Of course, much more smaller, because you know you can't spend that much money for another 10 years. That's impossible. So there is still a positive vibe, and there is still. We just had election, and it was not about are we going to continue with the Agenda 2028 and with the legacy of European Capital Culture. It's how and how much. So yes, there's still a positive vibe. But yet again, also still there's a new organization who's working on that. So it's basically you go in smaller portion to the same difficulties in a shorter period to get that program up and running. Because to be honest, at the end of 2018, everybody was exhausted. It was a really, it was a great year, but it took so much energy, also from the cultural sector, and all those people who participated. So when you look at 2019, there was nothing in the pipeline. So we're now starting up the new projects, and also projects will continue in 2019, 2020. Yeah.
So thank you, John, greatly for.
Thank you. Very nice.